We're going to jump into a little example here. Again, remember these examples are for helping us to see the most commonly used vocabulary and words with a little simple example situation. So we're going to look at somebody getting ready for a meeting. Here we have Fred and Jane. Fred and Jane are planning for a meeting. It's important to plan beforehand. If you don't plan, you're not going to be very successful in negotiation. So let's take a look now at how Fred and Jane approached this. Fred says, I'm going to ask my boss for a raise tomorrow. Okay, so there we go. Pretty common. I think everybody wants a raise. I would like to have a raise too. How much are you going to ask for? Jane inquires. So here we begin. What's your goal? Fred says, well, the more, the better. Jane responds by pointing out, if you want to be persuasive, you need to have an exact amount in mind and then convince your boss you are worth it. This is really the key point. So here, right here, this sentence from Jane is the key point of what we're looking at today. If you want to be persuasive, you're going to have a number and attach a value. Fred says, okay, I won't give in until I have at least a 15% increase in my composition. I'll convince my boss I'm worth it by emphasizing the work I did last month on the job. I made a big profit for our company. So Fred changes his direction by saying, I've got a specific goal, 15%. And I'm going to value that based on last month's project. So here, Fred attaches a value to the number. We can judge our success or failure by that number. We can also justify that number based on the value. Fred wants his boss to think the pay raise is a good value. So let's jump over to the meeting now. So we have an actual meeting going on. Here we see Fred talking with Bill to prepare for another negotiation. Fred says, we cannot assume the Zeno products we purchase will be successful in the market. Bill says, our marketing department predicts strong demand for this product. The implication is that Zeno will try to ask for a higher supply price. So here we have Fred and Bill. They're planning for a negotiation. This is before the negotiation, not after the negotiation, not during the negotiation. It's before the negotiation. The key point, what is it they're talking about? They're talking about the company they will negotiate with. And what is that company's name? Zeno. And what's the key point they're talking about? They're trying to figure out what's the value. We want to buy a product from Zeno Company. How much should we pay? How much should we give in? How much should we pay? How much should we give in to their demands? And how much should we demand? Well, this depends, doesn't it? If we buy the product from Zeno and we try to sell it in the market and it doesn't sell well, then we should pay less, shouldn't we? We should take less risk, right? If the product we buy from Zeno sells very well and we make profit on that, increase our sales volume, then we should be willing to pay more. And we should be willing to take more risk because we have more pay off later. So here we really need to plan ahead. That's what they're doing here. Fred says, forecasts are not always reliable. We don't want to pay high and sell low. This is going to be a tough negotiation. Fred says, before the negotiation, we need to be clear on what our goals are. And Bill says, any price over 120 USD, we will have to reject. So here we come into a very clear goal. 120 USD, 120 USD. Okay, let's continue on with this talk here. Fred says, that is our upper limit. I understand, but we also need to emphasize production cannot be delayed. So we've got a main idea here. 120 is the price. We also need to talk about the timing of the delivery and that the production cannot be too late. What is the latest date we can accept? Bill asked. What is our latest date for that delivery? Fred says, we cannot postpone Christmas sales because Christmas is a fixed date, a very big retailing time in many markets. So we want to get the product into the market in time for Christmas. We're going to have to take delivery earlier than that. And supplies, Fred says, must be delivered at least 2 months before Christmas season. Bill says, give me an exact date, Fred. So here, I really like this. We're making the goals clearer and clearer, trying to be more and more specific, less and less general. Fred then says, we need to take delivery of the goods before September 1st. So now we're very specific. Bill says we should consider stressing a price of 100 USD. If Zeno threatens to withdraw, we can suggest they guarantee delivery in time in return for a price of 110. Now, remember, the goal was 120. Now we're going to lower on the price to 100. Why? Because then we can give up a little bit. What will we give up? We give up $10, up to 110. And that way, pressure Zeno to make sure we get delivery on time. We add value to the number. Fred says, they may accept that if we are persuasive about our ability to increase their sales, with the implication we would cooperate with them in the future. So, if we can convince them, we can also maybe have to guarantee future purchase, making a future relationship where we sell more for them. This is where things get interesting. It's never the case that a business works totally on its own. If I'm buying from Zeno, they want to sell to me. And if they want me to succeed so I can sell more, if I sell more, I make more, and they make more. In this way, we create a relationship. But they don't know that I'll sell more in the future. It's a risk for them. I don't know that their product will sell well. It's a risk for me. So everyone is careful, measuring the risk, and they're trying to get the biggest payoff up front. That's really what Fred and Bill here are talking about. They're trying to see how can we minimize risk, maximize profit up front, and maybe create a long-term benefit. Bill says, of course, but we must test their lowest price. We must test their lowest price, meaning try to get the lowest price. Let's put off the delivery issue and first deal with the price issue. After we test their price, we can submit the delivery proposal. Now we've gotten very specific. What are our price targets? 120. We want to start out at 100. We're willing to jump up to 110, and that way we can pressure for the delivery time. However, which one should come first? What should come second? First should be price. If we talk about price, we can test how willing they are to go down on that price. Then, once we get a feeling for that, we can bring up the delivery. If we get the low price, we can get 100. Hey, great. That's good for us. Our target was 120. Maybe we get 110. If they're very hard to push to 100, they resist. Then maybe we are willing to pay more, because remember, our target is 120. But we can give up something, like $10 more, and then get back something on the delivery. So we don't want to give up everything up front. We want to step by step give up a little bit and test a little bit. So where do we begin? We're beginning by testing their price. Fred says, that all sounds good, but we need a fallback plan. I like that idea of a fallback plan. So what we've done here is we've gotten our targets. We've gotten our priorities. Now we need to say, hey, what happens if things don't go right? What do we do? Bill says, I've seen Zeno people negotiate before, and they are tough. So here's a new idea. Who is your counterpart in the negotiation? Who are you negotiating with? Who is the other side? If you know something about them, if you have some experience, or you can talk to someone with some experience, this will be helpful. This will help you to get ready for the negotiation beforehand. And Bill says he's seen the Zeno people, negotiators, before. They don't give up any dollars easily. They don't give up any concessions easily. Fred says Zeno negotiators are often renegotiate points that were already settled. That's a negotiation tactic. We're going to learn about the strategies and tactics later. For now, the tactic of renegotiating means up front they may say, yeah, okay, we agree. But then later they say, we don't want to do that. We have to change. So maybe at the beginning they say, yeah, we'll give you 110. But then later they say, 110, well, we can't give you 110. I talked to my boss. He refuses. This is a renegotiating tactic. It makes a negotiation difficult because when you try to test their price, they say yes, but then later they say no.